From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon of Afternoons LALATE with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022. In today's recording, we have a lot of major breaking news as the president says he will make a determination on student loan debt forgiveness in the next few days. This is huge, but he also says something else about it. What did he say? How the latest details on that as well. Plus, we have breaking developing details on that growth of the U.S. economy or lack of it. The new numbers released this morning signaled that the U.S. economy is contracting faster than initially thought. And all the latest details on those new inflationary numbers, because guess what? They impact your SS 300. But the great news is not one, not two, but several checks have now gone out for stimulus checks and landed by direct deposit. How do you get them? They're coming up in today's recording. There are a lot of checks, and they're not from Congress, they're from other bodies. Who are they sending the checks out to? And how do you get them? They're coming up in today's incredible recording. Then we have new details about Build Back Better Act from Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. The latest wranglings and what we know about Memorial Day weekend. Whoa, there we go. Here we go. Once again, I have the latest details on that front. Meantime, what's going on with that sixth stimulus? As the price of oil, price of wheat have not gone down. And what does that mean for the latest major stimulus package that would be coming this month on top of Build Back Better Act? Whoa. And then could there also be bipartisan stimulus packages or package passed in the next few weeks before the midterm election? Yeah, that's a major developing detail you never heard before until today's recording. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, I have a lot of money. I have new stimulus checks landed by direct deposit. I have new push to get other stimulus packages done right after that. And then I have the latest economic news that impacts your wallet. It's all starting right here, right this moment. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, for April 28th, 2022, this is Afternoons. Good afternoon, everybody. What a day it is. For April 28th, 2022, major developing details, especially with the growth rate of the U.S. economy. It's a big indication of where this economy is going, where Build Back Better Act is heading, and also where SS 300 is. But in this recording, we're going to go over not one, not two, but several major forced stimulus checks that have landed, and you need it because there's a lot going on. Then, student loan debt forgiveness, a lot going on in that as well. The president signaling that he will forgive more student loan debt, but how much and when, it's coming up in today's recording. Plus, we have that economic details that started the day, and then we have six stimulus coming up later in this recording. Stay to the very end, because over this broadcast, I got a lot of checks for you to get, and I want you to hear every check, so stay to the very end because we have a lot of money. Also, don't forget to become a member. The link is at the top of the chat, the pinned comment. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Join today to become a member to get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, via the YouTube alert system. It is the simplest, easiest way to have the rundown of all these stimulus checks that are landing by direct deposit, and they are huge, and the other checks you can get as well. It's a big day, and I don't want you to miss any of that incredible money. As we start this big afternoon, before we go into a big new week, what's important to know is that a series of new reports about Build Back Better Act have now been released. But we'll get to those in 1 second. The day started with the economic data released, and the economic data is not a surprise to the viewership of this channel, but was a surprise to Wall Street. The economic data showed that the gross domestic product, the GDP, which featured on this channel last night, declined at a 1.4% pace for the first quarter 2022. Yes. So remember, what is GDP? It shows how big the economy is growing. If it's a positive number, the economy is growing. If it's a negative number, the economy is shrinking. We were at 6.9% earlier this month. Wall Street expected 7.1%. Then 2 days ago, I told you a White House insider said that they're going to shrink to 3.7 by the end of this year. That's lower than Wall Street's anticipating. They're only anticipating a shrink to 4% by the end of the year. So what was the latest economic data that came out this morning? Wall Street was looking for the GDP in the United States to grow at 1% for the first quarter of this year, the first 4 months, first for 3 months. And what happened? It went down 1.4%. So it showed the U.S. economy shrank 1.4%, did not grow the first 3 months of this year. This is noise, not a signal. The economy is not falling into recession, wrote Ian Chipperson, chief economist at Pantheon. I agree that this data by itself is not enough to indicate recession, but I do believe we're going into recession. More about that in a second. In retrospect, this could be seen as a pivotal report, says Simona Makota, chief economist at State Street Global Investors. It reminds us of the reality that growth has been great, but things are changing. They won't be great going forward. That's what I co-sign. This is so important. Why? It's important for a Build Back Better Act because people give you relief when you're in time of need, and the time of need is hitting right now. The U.S. economy was supposed to have a 7.1% growth this month. Then it came in at 6.9%. Missed there. Then Wall Street said by the end of the year it's going to go to 4% growth. Well, Jay Powell says he's going to try to get down to 1.9% GDP, 1.9% inflation. I don't buy it. Then the White House said we see it shrinking even more to 3% growth by the end of the year. I've been saying that's going to shrink to 0. Yes, I'm projecting 2 years of recession starting next year. Recession means negative GDP growth month after month. Not alone, because Deutsche Bank said the same thing. They're expecting 2 years of recession starting next year. And then we have a new series of reports that continue to come on in. Goldman Sachs says a 35% chance of going into recession. And then Deutsche Bank actually says significant recession. That's actually their quote. This comes on a year in which GDP rose at 5.7% the year before this, the fastest growth since the 1980s. But now, with consumer expenditures, which accounts for 70% of the U.S. economy, driving growth the last year, that expenditure is not happening. Sustaining the growth into 2022 is not happening because of all these other economic data. So what about consumer spending? Were consumer spending this year, or the first quarter of this year, their consumer spending grew at 2.7%, but that's after price of goods went up 7.8% the first few quarters this year. So overall, this is indication that people are still spending even though goods are going up dramatically. But it also shows the U.S. economy shrinking. Now, let's go back to Build Back Better Act. The White House insider says that the current growth rate of the U.S. economy by the end of the year is 3.7%, saying that Wall Street has it wrong. That type of growth is definitely scary because guess what? If we're at 6.9% growth right now, then it means something is happening later this year that is signaling that the White House does not have it all in checks and balances. Well, what is among the checks and balances? You know who they are. On the left is check, Joe Manchin. On the right is balanced, Chris Sinema. What's going on with those two? Well, there's a new report out today in a very conservative Republican publication that says the president will make the Build Back Better Act the highlight of his midterm elections. I believe so. Well, let me say it another way. That's what the White House said 2 days ago, that it will be the center of his focus. But every day that goes by, I start to wonder if it really is. Remember last week when the president said, or a White House insider said, that the White House is refocusing on domestic agenda, focusing away from Ukraine because it's distracting the electorate, because the electorate thinks the U.S. economy, U.S. voters are getting a little bit tired about spending money on Ukraine. And every single day, for every single hour of the last week, we've heard the White House spending more money in Ukraine. They spent more money in Ukraine 3 days ago, 2 days ago, and then again today. And with that, very little words coming out of the White House about Build Back Better Act. Why? The White House is hamstrung by a Venn diagram of Manchin Sinema, says an individual close to the situation. Folks just feel burned by Joe Manchin as top Democrat. Now, what I got to tell you is that the Manchin Sinema story just reads really well in print media. It just reads really well. It reads like a Roman novel because there's so much dramatics of it. But here's one thing that I have never heard before until today, and I have the breaking news for you across the board. A White House insider now believes that there's a big problem with Sinema and Manchin. And the problem is that they have very polar opposite opinions. Oh boy, that's the first time we've ever heard that, folks. Remember, we were told that the president picked up the phone and called Kristen Sinema and said, get on board about prescription medication. And he had her on board for the whole rest of the Build Back Better Act. Remember that? Yeah, and that Joe Manchin was really the holdout. That Sinema was on board, he was the holdout. Now we see something in a new report. I don't know if this contradicts the prior reporting or if this reporting is inaccurate. But the new report says that Joe Manchin, his focus on lowering the corporate taxes, increasing the corporate taxes and reducing the national deficit, which is correct, so we've heard this for over a year, is directly the opposite of what Kristen Sinema wants. Excuse me? Where did this one come from? I have never, ever heard this in over a year. I've never heard this in over a year, that Kristen Sinema is exactly opposed, 100% opposed to what Joe Manchin wants in the Build Back Better Act. Remember all the times that they were huddling in the basement of the Congress where they take a little tram to avoid news reporters? So they were always two peas in a pie. And now we hear that she wants, well, let's say it again, that he wants higher corporate taxes, lowering the deficit, and she does not want to go anywhere near corporate taxes. That is one that makes you want to choke. I've never heard that before. So the report also says that the president's pandering too much to Joe Manchin. If the president's pandering too much to Joe Manchin, he will isolate Kristen Sinema because she is apparently opposed to what Joe Manchin wants. Do I buy into this? I gotta tell you, how much am I taking this as a grain of salt? About 100% as a grain of salt. I don't buy it. I really don't. I just want to give you, that's what the reporting's out there. I don't buy it. Now, get ready for a laugh. Get ready for a laugh. I shouldn't laugh, but I gotta laugh. You know, sometimes this channel in late night, like 11 o'clock at night, we used to have some of our older shows air. And one of the shows at the time, some of the shows airing at the time, I think they're now in September, was that they promised to get Build Back Better done by July. By the July recess. Remember in 2021, they promised to get it by July. So guess the new quote today. They promised to get it done by the July 2022 recess. Yeah, it just, if I can repeat what they said, they can repeat it, I guess. Just change the one at the end of 2021 to 2022. So there we go. This is why you need every single check. And later in this video, I have the big checks that are landing by direct deposit. Why did I go through all that just then? To show you that 4 stimulus checks are landing by direct deposit, and it does not need a Kristen Sinema or Joe Manchin vote. It doesn't need a waivable check or wearing any lobster shorts. It's incredible, great news, and it's coming up in just a second. Now let's go to the other breaking news across the board. As the Federal Reserve is really, about to have that FOMC meeting in just days from now, and that FOMC meeting will announce a half basis point increase. But with a half basis point increase, then the Federal Reserve is going to likely stay there for the next 2 meetings. Inflation rates continue to surge across the board, and the inflation may not be solved by raising interest rates. That's my analysis across the board. We have major supply chain disruption, and it's growing by the minute. We have 3 supply chain disruptions right now. They are coming out of COVID, Ukraine, and now China. And this is big because it talks about your SS300. Joe Biden represented that he's going to swap your COLA for inflation when he became president of the United States at his presidential platform at joebiden.com. You want him to do it right now. Pick up the phone and call the Social Security Administrator head. Say, hey, swap that COLA for inflation. He's done this before. He's done this twice in just the last 6 months with other items. First, he picked up the phone and called Department of Agriculture saying, pay a little bit more for SNAP. They did. Then he picked up the phone and called Department of Education, Miguel Cardona, secretary there, and said, start forgiving some student loan debt. They have. So all he has to do on this front is to pick up the phone and contact the Social Security Administrator head, say, hey, swap that COLA for inflation. That Social Security head would do it if Joe made that phone call. And that would raise your benefits up about $200 more per month. Not just this month, not just this year, but lifetime. Let's go over how this works. Your benefits are determined based upon a benchmark. That benchmark is COLA. And every December they look at the benchmark COLA. Is it a positive number or is it flat? If it's flat, your benefits don't go up. If it's positive, your benefits go up, which was last December. COLA came in at 5%, but you got cheated. Why? because inflation at the time was 8%. Your benefits should have gone up 8%, not 5%. So if Joe made that swap from COLA to inflation right today, your benefits would go up $200 more per month. Not just this month, not just this year, but lifetime. Because once your benefits go up, they don't just go up that month, they go up a lifetime. Then if inflation tracks at 4% later this year, your benefits go up another $100 across the board. So what are we looking at right now? First, let's look at that end of the year. I'm projecting inflation is going to be at 4% by the end of the year. I think that whatever Jay Powell says about trying to get inflation down to 1.9% or able to get down to 1.9% later this year, I think it's just talking the talk, not walking the walk. What I've been teaching viewers on this channel is that Jay Powell has a megaphone, very large, at Fed, and his job is to try to get down inflation by talking it down, even when he can't physically get it down. I don't think he has the tools. I don't think he has the tools with 3 supply chain disruptions to get it down. I'll have more about this tonight on Evenings LA. So that means if inflation was at 4% by the end of the year, your benefits would go up another $100. But if Joe made that swap from COLA to inflation right today, your benefits would go up $200 more per month. Now, when we talk about the Federal Reserve and we talk about Build Back Better, we go apple and apple, hand in hand, because guess what? Bad economic data, Federal Reserve is impacted. Bad economic data impacts Build Back Better Act. Let's go over the data. Let's go over the situation. The midterm elections will have Republicans and Democrats both saying the U.S. economy is stalling. They'll talk about recession. They'll talk about inflation. They'll talk about interest rates. They'll talk about shrinking GDP. They'll both talk about it. They gotta. And the party that wins will be the one that addresses how to solve the situation right at hand. Not a promise, but actually a solution. For the first time, I really think ever in the history of this channel, in the Fourth Stimulus Build Back Better Act debate, that I think you're likely to see something very different to Build Back Better happening, maybe Build Back Better 2.0, in which it's done by bipartisan support. I gotta tell you that every Republican that has a reasonable brain cell will realize Build Back Better Act could implode in their face in the midterm elections. And that Build Back Better Act could also implode in the Democrats' face by the midterm elections. Let me tell you why. If Democrats go into the midterm elections and they focus on the Build Back Better Act as the core of why to be reelected, and they don't get it done, look how bad it looks for them. But if they go into the midterm elections, they focus on Build Back Better Act, and they get it done, and no Republican wants it, and every Republican votes against it, Republicans will do very poorly in the midterm elections because they voted against giving you economic relief in a time of need. We know how simple the analysis is. So I think you're likely to see a bipartisan piece of legislation. The bipartisan efforts of congressional leaders in recent days have been very, very interesting. Could Build Back Better Act look much different? It could. Now, that report that talked about Sinema and Manchin today also talked about what is in there, what is out of there. And no one really knows what is definitely out, with the exception of 2 provisions. Now, let me just make this very clear. I'm going to put this in a poster and frame it and point at it as many times as I can. This is not etched in stone. This is just one report. So do not say, you said we're not getting that money. No. I'm going to just tell you that this is just a report from an insider off the record. That insider says that potentially the children money and the elderly items may come out, referring specifically to the $4,000 of elder care and the $3,600 for the CTC. They say might come out. But what's staying in there? The insider had no information. Again, it's just an insider. I believe that Build Back Better Act is going to get done, and I think that the economic data is faltering, and that economic data helps Build Back Better Act. It also helps your benefits for SS300. But out of nowhere, the President of the United States, perhaps set up by himself, perhaps set up by continually toying with the issue, gave us an answer about 7 stimulus today. I don't know where the President of the United States gave us an answer about 7 stimulus. That is student loan debt forgiveness. We went into last weekend when the press secretary to Joe Biden said, complete student loan debt forgiveness is still on the table at the White House. That was the quote at the time. So those news reporters, when they like a subject, they really ask a lot about the subject. News reporters love asking about student loan debt forgiveness. They ask it every time they can when they see the president. And he apparently didn't like the question today. He was holding a press briefing about Ukraine, and he got a question about student loan debt forgiveness. He didn't like it. He didn't like it. So let me tell you what his answer was. It was a little bit, how do you say it? It had a little bit of angst to it. I'm not considering $50,000 in debt forgiveness. Ooh, ouch, ouch, that burnt. I got a little heartburn from that. Did you get a heartburn from that? Uh, Couldn't he have said that a little nicer way? Yeah, I'm getting $1.5 billion to Ukraine. I don't know what it is, 15 electric pickup trucks to Ukraine. But don't ask me about $50,000 of student loan debt forgiveness. Don't ever ask me. Excuse me, did I hit a nerve there? I'm not considering $50,000 of student loan debt forgiveness. Okay. So what number are you considering? I'm not telling you. Lord, how long are we going to play this game, Joe? I mean, come on. Okay, you get a little bit peeved when when a reporter asks you about student loan debt forgiveness in Ukraine in a Ukraine press conference, and then you won't give us a number. So let's go over the rest of the quote. But I am in the process of taking a hard look at whether or not there should be additional debt forgiveness. You know what? Yeah, I almost lost it there. You saw me. Either do it or don't do it. Just don't play games with me. Don't toy with me. I mean, I don't like being toyed with. I really don't like being toyed with. Let me go over why I don't like that quote. He came into office with a promise to forgive student loan debt forgiveness. Then he's immediately backtracked. Okay, so then we had months of pushing me by Liz Warren and Chuck Schumer to do 50,000. Then the president said a lot of things about why 50,000 was a bad number. Okay, but never told us what was the number. Okay, so then the president started doing little bits and pieces, which is good, but it's a little bit like toying with me again. He forgave student loan debt forgiveness for individuals who became disabled after graduation. Obviously, of course he should. Forgave student loan debt for individuals who went to work in the public sector, nonprofit sector after graduation. Okay. Forgave student loan debts for people who got defrauded by the universities. That was a big one. That looked like a big win because that was the big rallying cry for student loan debt forgiveness. Then he took your debts from default into good standing. Okay, that was looking very promising. Then he said, if your debts were due in May, I'm rolling over to September to think about more. Okay, starting to toy with me again. Can't you think about in May? Why do you gotta think about in September? So then last Friday, the press secretary was asked about the question at a press briefing about, what color of teal you're doing for the holidays. Just teal, just lighter teal. And someone asked again, went right in it. Those reporters love this question. What about student loan debt forgiveness? And she said, we still have complete student loan debt forgiveness on the table. Good. When will the table actually get where would the table get refinished and painted and ready to eat on? Because I'm tired of hearing what's on the table. He said today, but I'm in the process of taking a hard, good look at whether or not there should be stuff done. You know what, Joe? Those type of comments make everyone cringe at a politician. I'm about to take a good, hard look. You've been asked to take a big, hard look about this the day you were elected. Come on. I mean, this has been 2 years. You're about to take a good, hard look. Why? Because, I could have said some stuff. No, I think I'll say it. Because why? Anthony Blinken was in Ukraine. You took a good hard look at Ukrainian air fighters or U.S. air fighters you're going to give to Ukraine. You couldn't take a good hard look at this for 2.5 years, and now you're taking a good hard look at it now. Moreover, I did this video last year, folks, where he told Miguel Cardona to determine whether he had the legal authority under the executive branch to forgive it. Not only was I a little bit peeved about it at the time, well, guess what? The guy he used to work with was peeved at it. John King, who is Obama Biden's education secretary, says Joe knows he can forgive student loan debt forgiveness. What is he doing here? He knows he can do it. Let me insert just a personal opinion right here. Let me tell you why I think this is dragging on so long. This is just my opinion. Is that there was a quote by Joe Manchin last year about why he wouldn't do 50,000. What's the problem with that number? And he said the problem with the number is that a lot of people that got that amount of student loan debt, $50,000, $60,000, now have massive high-paying jobs in the high six figures and went to major universities and are making, $500,000 a year. Why should I forgive people's student loan debts when they're making $500,000 a year? Okay, I think that's a really good point. I think he's seen that. in his White House staff. Yeah, they went to Yale maybe, and maybe they have $40,000 of student loan debts, and now they're being paid $150,000 a year, or I don't know what it's $200,000 a year as a staffer. And he says, "Why should I forgive your student loan debts?" And he's sitting around those people every single day. I think it's a very good point. Why can't you just write it up the way you want to write it up? You don't want to forgive student loan debts for people who make over, $200,000 a year, then put it in there. I mean, and get it done. Stop saying, "I'm about to take a look at it." Yeah, that's where people get a little bit annoyed when people say, "You've been told to take a look at this for 2 years." Now, let's go back to the incredible good news across the board, which is really the saving grace. This is the big saving grace. Student loan debt forgiveness, not taking a look at, but forced stimulus checks have been taken a look at and have been sent out. Thank goodness. In the case of forced stimulus checks, the President of the United States has sent out forced stimulus checks. Whoa, this is incredible. The President of the United States, seemingly the other version of Joe Biden, the sensible one, the one that moves very quickly, understands that he doesn't want to go to lunch with Joe Manchin anytime soon. There's actually quotes about that. He doesn't want to go to lunch with Joe Manchin. So why not just send out his own stimulus checks from the president, from the Oval Office? Why not do presidential forced stimulus checks? And he has. The President of the United States has now sent out forced stimulus checks, and they've landed by direct deposit. I have the incredible great news about how you get these big presidential forced stimulus checks by executive order in just a second. But first, we're going to look at the incredible great news about the states. The states have now started to send out forced stimulus checks by direct deposit, and they're absolutely incredible. Where did this come from? This came from Use or Lose, a concept first unveiled on this channel in 2020. In 2020, we had the first stimulus package. And at the time, Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi had a big bicker going on when they're trying to do the second stimulus package. Steve Mnuchin said the states still have a lot of money. Nancy said they don't. He said, "Okay, I'm going to settle this very quickly. Use or lose. If the states have the money, use it. Otherwise, return it back to me. Lose it." Well, it worked because the states used the money and they didn't return the money. Now, someone apparently got wind of that working idea, and her name is Janet Yellen. So she put it into the third stimulus package, use or lose. And now that third stimulus package became law early January last year, 2021, use or lose. And the date to lose is December. Now the states are all using it. Let me go over something important. And this is all breaking news today. And it's in view of some of the comments I saw last night in the live chat on one of the evening shows. First, were all states given money? Absolutely. Every state was given the same amount of money across the country based upon the population of that state. Doesn't matter if the state's rich, doesn't matter if the state's poor, Republican or Democrat, doesn't matter. Every state got the same amount of money for its citizens based upon the number of citizens living in that state under third stimulus. That was number one. Number two, every state will use the money. No state is ever going to return money to the federal government. They're too greedy. They're going to use the money. Number three, every state has the same state structure. They have a governor, and then they have a state legislature. Two branches. One looks like the House, one looks like the Senate and the Congress, but it's in the state's assembly and state Senate. And for something to become law in every state, it's generally the same way. One branch, the other branch, and then the governor signs into law. The process to do it is easier, though. When the governor is the ruling party, then generally he has control also of the state legislature, which means that if he says something or she says something today that she wants to have a law, it will become a law. So when do they have to get you the money? By about November, October. When do they actually have to announce the bill? About now, because it takes a little bit of time for one branch, another branch, and then for the governor to sign it all into law. There you go. Now, here is where it gets very, very exciting. A week ago on this channel, I said to you that two states had announced these forced stimulus checks. The first one was Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania made the major announcement, and that later that day came May. Pennsylvania was $2,000. Maine was $600 or $800 or $550. Can't remember the number, but it was something wonderful. Now, at the time, last Thursday, I said, get ready for the rest of the states to come forward in the next few weeks. I was wrong, because in less than 48 hours, 22 states came forward. Now, let me tell you what happened in last night's chat. Last night's evening's LA chat, or maybe it was evening's countdown chat. There were 3 different viewers from 3 different states, and this is what happened. The first viewer was in Oregon, and that viewer said, Oregon doesn't help anyone. Oregon's not sending out money. By the time the person started finishing the second sentence, typing the second sentence, I'd immediately looked up the result and had it for that viewer. Yeah, Oregon already announced this. Oregon already has a check going out. The next viewer in the live chat, Massachusetts doesn't care about anyone. The viewer wrote, Massachusetts doesn't help anyone. Massachusetts will never send out a check. I went right on and found my research, and Massachusetts already sent out a check. It's just like, what's going on here? Here's what you need to know is that every state will use the money. No state will lose the money. And every state's doing a little bit different. So which states have the checks? How do you get the checks? How are they doing? It's coming up in the second half of this video. I bet you're excited. I'm very excited. And I have a personal narrative and personal opinion to go over with you on this front coming up after the commercial break. Then we go over the big details of the 4 stimulus checks landed by executive order. And it's in days like this that we have this confusion about Build Back Better Act that you really are excited about these presidential 4 stimulus checks. They're coming up in just a second. Then I have a preview of E! News LA tonight at 5 o'clock. It's a big show tonight. It's in prime time. And we'll go a little bit more about what's going on in that show. But first, if you haven't become a member, oh, what are you doing? Become a member. The link is in the top of the channel in the pinned comment. Become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Remember, that newsletter comes Monday through Friday. It doesn't come on the weekends. So sign up right away so you get the newsletter before the weekend and you can bounce and get some money over the weekend. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. The link's at the top of the channel. Pin comment. In the second half of this video, we have those big checks, presidential 4 stimulus checks and state stimulus checks coming up. It's a big second half from the shores of Santa Monica, California today. It's a beautiful day. I'm excited you're here, and we're just getting started. Big moolah, big money, not a lot of bacon, not a lot of Chris and Sneema, Joe Manchin hair braiding, but other than that, we're all good. See you back in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues in a big second half of Afternoons LA for April 28th, 2022. Boy, what a day it is. If you look at the calendar, it's important to understand that in just a few weeks, midterm election voting starts, and not just on a presidential level. This is important. Well, obviously not on a presidential level, not just on a congressional level, but also on a state level. This is important for both your presidential 4 stimulus checks and also your state 4 stimulus checks. Let's go over those state 4 stimulus checks. We started with Pennsylvania and Maine, and now we are brought into 22 states. 22 states have either passed bills or vowing to pass bills to give you a stimulus check. Let's go over the details across the board. States were given money on a third stimulus. They have the money. They haven't used it up. They will not return it back to the federal government. They will use the money. So to use the money, they have to get it to you or use it by about October-ish, November-ish. For them to do that, they have to have a bill proposed by about now or May, because then it takes a little bit of time for it to go through the 2 branches of their state government, state assembly and state house, state senate, and then for the governor to sign it into law. Now, we have across the country, half of those 20 states approximately have passed the bills. The other half have proposed bills. What do the bills look like? The bills range for anything from a stimulus check in pure form, just for one person, to a multiple check for a double check for a married couple, to a check also for the adult dependent or minor dependent. And then we have other items like you file a tax return, then you get a refund check, or you go and spend something on something in that state, and then you don't have to pay for some type of excess on top of that, like a tax. Very, very fluid across the board. Now, here's what I want you to know is that there is literally almost money everywhere. But every state's doing it quite differently. They're doing the qualifications, they're doing income levels. Moreover, the income levels generally are 75,000 less, a single individual, or married couple, 150,000 or less. But states sometimes are still modifying it. So they'll say only for this group or that group, it's all quite different. And then I think it's very likely that you'll see some states actually do more than just one offering. They may do a multiple. It all started with Tom Wolf, the governor of Pennsylvania, who says, I'm asking the General Assembly to unite across the aisle for the sake of every Pennsylvania when they arrive, so that they concede, get this money out of the state bank accounts and into the hands of the Pennsylvanians. Wow. And what is this check? What is this fourth stimulus state check? It is Check D. This incredible fourth stimulus check D is absolutely incredible. Many states are paying out $2,000. Some states are paying out $500. Some states are paying out, I think it was $1,600, all various sums of money. This is Check D. How do you learn if your state is paying out a check? How is it paying out the check? Or is it doing something other than a check, like another type of stimulus relief? How do you learn how to get it? How do you learn what it is? How do you learn what the status is? It's all in the membership newsletter. Since last week, I've revamped the membership newsletter to now include Check D, which goes over the rundown of what states have done or are proposing to do, and how you get these incredible checks. Every state is different. Everything is quite different across the board. That is why you want to become a member. You don't want to miss any of these checks, and they are now in the membership newsletter. Go into that membership newsletter and go right down to Check D. That's the numbering system I use on this channel. And you'll see which states are doing what. Again, to become a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino, VIP. Now, in addition to that, there is not only Check D, the state for stimulus checks that are landing by direct deposit or otherwise in the mail, there is also presidential for stimulus checks. The President of the United States, understanding that he may still have problems with Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, has decided to send out his own forced stimulus checks, and they have landed by direct deposit. And they're more huge than any stimulus check you've ever seen before on this channel. They ain't $300. They ain't $600. They ain't $1,200 or $1,400. Folks, these are enormous stimulus checks. And the first one the president has sent out, the first forced stimulus check, is $6,500 to $12,000. Lord, that is an enormous, big, monstrous forced stimulus check. It's paying $6,500 to $12,000. Can you imagine how much money that is? That's incredible. That is huge, wonderful news. So, what is the income qualification? Same for this one. Single individual, $75,000 less. Married couple, $150,000 less. And then if you're on benefits like SSI, SSDI, Veterans Social Security, you can get as well. What is this called? It's called the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant Check. And how do you get this? Again, same way. Become a member. Go right into that membership newsletter, and right at the top is Check A. It's an alphabetical order, so obviously it's at the top. Check A will give you the link to go into the national website to click and apply. Then, if you're, let's say, Mississippi, you choose your state, Mississippi. Then you choose the Mississippi Weatherizing Grant Program and apply. Pounce, apply online. I send you all the information you know, and you go and get it. Then you're not going to stop there, because there is also a $15,000 to $80,000 forced stimulus check as well. This is the second check that Joe Biden has done by executive order. He took it out of Build Back Better Act. It's now law. It's huge. It's incredible. And look at this payout, folks. $66,000, $80,000. I mean, are you jumping up and down? I hope you are, because look at these sums of money. I mean, this is just enormous. It's a forced stimulus check. It's called the Homeowners Grant Check. And why is this different than A? Because a lot more money, it pays for a lot of other things like home repairs. How do you get this check? Same way as the A check. You go right into that membership newsletter. Then go down to Check B. It'll give you a link into the national website that has the application. It's run by the federal government. And then you'll see a map like this one. You'll choose your state, go in and apply at the state level. It's huge. You deserve it. You're not done there yet because there's also a check C. We went over A, B, and D. Let's go to check C. It is a monthly stimulus check averaging about $2,000 a month over 12 months, $24,000. And how do you get check C? It's a little bit different than check A and B because unlike A and B that has an online application, C involves just you, your phone, and your pen, and also your voice. I mean, you got to talk. You can't just hold up the phone and say hello and just sort of stare. You got to talk. Where is this coming from? Third stimulus. Yes. In 2020, December 2020, there was not a lot of money in the U.S. government available for you. It was the holidays. She needed money. So I looked high and low to find money for people, and I found it. I found money for rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance, and got viewers like Tyrone out of Boston. Remember that viewer on the video, in the order of the video says there's nothing in Massachusetts? Untrue. Tyrone got $15,000 to pay for rent for his family and utilities from December 2020 to spring of 2021. By the time I had a preview of a proposed bill for 2021, that I said, if this becomes law, this is going to be huge because it's the same things we're going over right now in 2020, just a lot more money. Well, guess what happened? It became law. And that was third stimulus. I coined the expression third stimulus on the channel, like I coined the expression for fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. And when it became law, I said, I think you can get about 15,000. I think I've trained you well enough to how to do this that I think you can get about 15,000 now that it's law. Well, I was wrong because the average viewer of this channel got 45,000 when third stimulus became law. Look at these numbers for rent. These are what membership gets you. These are viewers who listen and watch and read the membership newsletter. Look how well they learned. Learning is earning. I just made that up. I love that. Maybe I should put that on a t-shirt. Bombshell. Look at these monies. Learning is earning. Wow, look at that. Let's look at utilities. Mark's Bubble Law, 15,000. Then Snap. Then Combo. Oh my goodness, this is multiple sums of money. Mark is at 32,000. Then he went to 50,000. Then he went to 166,000. You've heard it enough on this channel. These are massive sums of money. 105 for Lorraine. That's just 120. Johnny got 80,000. Then he got his two family members 50,000 each. Then he helped his neighbors get 320,000 among like 20 neighbors. Learning is earning. So what do? You pick up the phone and call. You're going to call your city hall, your city house authority, your county hall, your county house authority, your state hall, and your state house authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, rent or mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. 3 things you must do. You must put multiple applications on file. You must get as many months as you can, and you must lean on those nonprofits. Now, if you're a member, which I hope you are, you're going to reach out to more than just 6 places. You're also going to reach out to the nonprofits because there's about half a dozen of them. And they then give you about 15 places to phone and get those big sums of money. You are going to do so well. And that, my friends, is check C. If you heard that and said that was a lot to digest, well, if you're a member, don't worry, because it's all written out for you, line by line, word by word in the membership newsletter under check C. That's why you want to become a member. Become a member today to learn about these incredible checks. The membership links at the top of the channel, pinned comment. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino, VIP. Get that check D, get that check B, get that check A, get that check C. Become a member today, get that incredible money across the board. Now, here's a little personal commentary for me to you in today's video. Last night, you saw, I already told you what was going on with 3 viewers in 3 states. One viewer said, Massachusetts doesn't help anyone. They'll never send out a forcible check. They already have. Then a viewer for Oregon and a viewer from another state. In 4 minutes, 3 viewers said their state doesn't help anyone. And look how quickly I found that their state had helped people. It's important to understand that states have the money and they'll use the money. And if you're telling yourself your state has no money, why are you hurting yourself? You're basically telling yourself there's no money, don't look for it. Let's be very frank. If there's money out there, let's say there's money on behind my left shoulder, which to you might look like right shoulder. It's my left shoulder. Let's say there's money behind my left shoulder, and I say there's no money there. There's just no money there. And you're like, well, maybe there is money there, LA. Well, no, there's just no money behind my left shoulder. And then you're like, well, just go look. Oh yeah, there's money behind my left shoulder. I should have looked. This is why when people say there's nothing there, you're hurting yourself. You're really hurting yourself. The mindset is that perhaps you don't want anything. The mindset is perhaps you don't want the money. because you're telling yourself there's no money there, and it takes me 10 seconds to tell you, yeah, there's money there. Now there's money there. Now, let me tell you another part of this equation, which I think is much more important. Much more important. All throughout 2021, I always talked about if you have a success story, post your success story in the live chat. Whether you got $100 or $200 or $20,000 or $50,000, post your success story. Because when you do, you inspire other people. We all congratulate each other. We say, great job. Where'd you get it from? What state are you on? What did you get the money from? We love success stories, don't we? We all love it. Now, last night, I had a little bit of a discussion. That's a polite way to say it. Discussion with one viewer who is actually a non-member, who is in the live chat, and said, you know what, as to the rent, the utilities, and the mortgage assistance, there is no money anywhere in my state, and I don't believe there ever will be that money. Now, this is a state that's given viewers this channel, I don't know, probably just from that state alone, maybe over $200,000, $300,000. And I said to the viewer, okay, it's one thing for you to be negative about yourself. But I said, let me tell you what you just did. Let me just tell you what you just did. You posted in a live chat that there's no money. And other people who may be new to being viewers of this channel saw what you wrote, that there's no money. And guess what you're doing? You're deliberately hurting other people. You're deliberately hurting other people or recklessly hurting other people. Why? Because they're going to see your comment, unless I delete it, which I did. They're going to see your comment and think there's no money, and they're not going to make the effort to get the money. They're not going to get the money, maybe because they're dissuaded by your negative, false narrative. They're not going to go out and get the money, and then they're going to get into financial problems because they never got the money. Let's say there's a person in another state who is facing eviction moratorium, facing eviction, needs money on that rent right away, and just needs maybe $600 more. And you go in the live chat and say, there's no money anywhere. There's no money anywhere. Don't try it. Just don't try it. Just don't try it. And then you go back and have your $6 cappuccino. Look how badly you hurt that other person. You hurt that other person because you may have dissuaded that other person from going and get the money. When you post negative false statements that there is no help, that there is no money, that there is no help, that there is no money, you are willfully, deliberately, or at least recklessly hurting other people. And it gotta stop. It gotta stop. It's one thing for you to hurt yourself. It's another thing to hurt other people. And I won't allow it. It's very bad because there's a lot of people in need. There's a lot of people who watch this channel who are in need. They're in need of different things, whether it's a pure stimulus check or whether it's rent or utilities. And when you post that there's nothing there anywhere in the United States for anyone in any walk of life, or all these crazy statements, you know what you're doing? You're really hurting someone deliberately. And I hope you're happy if you do it, because that is the first time and only time you're going to get it until you're banned. I don't tolerate that type of behavior. And boy, it really, really negatively hurts another person. It gotta stop. It's one thing to say that there's no money for one item. But if you say that there's absolutely nothing in your entire state, which is all wrong, if you say there's nothing across any state, which is even more wrong, or you're saying that there's nothing for stimulus, which is of course ridiculous because there's all these checks that have now gone out. When you post this crazy narrative of false stuff, you're really hurting other people. You know what you're basically doing? There's $600, $800, $900 perhaps on a table for someone that they can go get. And you're telling them, don't get it. Turn the other way and walk the other way. Don't go grab the money. And that person follows your instruction maybe because you dissuaded them against getting that money. And they turn the other way, they don't get the money, and then they have financial problems because you told them not to go get it. How awful is that for you to do that to people? So please don't do that. Please do not say there's no money. Please do not say there's no help. Please do not say it's not a law. Please do not say it's not happening. Please do not say this stuff. If you want misery for yourself, misery is fine for you, but don't post on a public forum, because what you're doing is hurting other people who can be in a better livelihood. That's the purpose of this channel. Finally, learning is earning. Learning is about earning. And if you want to learn, you can earn. You can get lots of money from these different items if you want to learn. If you want to just spread your false narratives, then you're not here to learn, and you're certainly not here to earn either. So why are you here? You're here to learn. And if you want to learn, put that finger down. Stop typing the false narratives. Stop typing the false statements that there's nothing and isn't or wasn't or wouldn't or can't or couldn't. All these negative statements, all these false statements. Put down that pen. If you're here to learn, let's earn. Let's earn. If you aren't here to learn, then burn. Did I just say that? Yeah. If you... Bombshell. Waveable Jack. Talking cow. Your newest expression. I just don't know. It came out of nowhere. We're here to learn and so to earn. And if you're not, then burn. Okay. With that, I'll see you tonight on Eden's LA. I hopefully will not have another tacky expression by then. But with that, I want you to earn, so please learn and become a member right today. The link is at the top of the chat, the pinned comment, Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. Become a member today. You can get these incredible checks, and there will be more checks. As more checks come in, because there are a lot more checks coming on in, A was first, then B came a few weeks later, C came thereafter, D just came late last week. You want to become a member and stay a member. Meantime, join me tonight on Evenings LA at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. A lot of breaking news tonight. I don't want you to miss it. It's America's most watched show for financial news in prime time. It's Evenings LA at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. Stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful day, and stay with LA for more.